here's more of Mariah Carey's book, The Meaning of Mariah Carey. There's a Lay of My Life chapter, part of it. After the divorce, my mother, and Francois reconnected. She planned a net-breaking union with the rich man who got away. My mother got more getting me excited about the fantasy that wealthy, exotic man would come in and sweep us up on our own run-down digs, and we would be set for life. All we had to do was impress him. I could do it, I thought. Maybe my mother could sing a song on the piano. And that night, the big date arrived, and when my mother and Francois were out, I pulled together the best little outfit I could to greet him. I was nervous because my mother wanted me to be rescued bad, and wanted to be in a nice, safe place too. The stakes were high. I was home alone. My mother and Francois returned. I was home alone a lot as a child. Determined to do my part to make this relationship work for my mother, I ran to the door. Francois came in ahead of her. He was a tall, imposing older man in a dark suit with sharp, mysterious features. "Hello," I began cheerily, perhaps throwing in a cute curtsy for dramatic effort. "Shut up," he barked. "Where's my son?" The force of his words crushed every bit of enthusiasm in me. He was scary. I was only a kid. A biggest stranger had stormed into my house to miss me and scream at me. I ran crying to my mother's bedroom. She tried to calm me down, but I was inconsolable. I'm not sure if Francois was Morgan, who had our father's black features running all up and down through him. Needless to say, no rich, heroic man saved us that day. No man saved us any day. I did not like or trust most of my mother's men. She had one older black boyfriend, Leroy, who tried to protect us from Morgan during one of his more violent episodes by saying, "I got my piece," and flashing a pistol. Imagine your mother's boyfriend carrying a gun and threatening to use it on our teenage son, your brother. Sally did not make me feel safer. Morgan had become a scary presence by them. However, my mother's men were not all bad. Nothing and no one is ever all bad. There was a sweet man in my mother's life named Henry. He was my favorite. He was about 10 years younger than my mother and a horticulturalist. He drove an old red pickup truck outfitted for the field. His many gardening tools, tree cuttings, mulch, and other supplies would stick out from the back. He knew his trade. He was very well educated and grew extraordinary plants that towered over me, maybe some species that were illegal at the time. He also grew an impressive afro that seemed to float above his head. My mother and I lived in a few different places with Henry, but for a while the three of us were in a small house on a grand estate where he was the gardener. The place gave me plantation vibes, and we lived in the modern equivalent of the servants' quarters. But still, Henry's house was nicer than most of the houses we lived in and gave me the brief moment of stability. I was in the third grade when we lived there. Henry built a swing on an big old tree that was near what looked to me like a mini mountain made of garbage. One day he brought home 2 rescue kittens, one for me and one for him. That is better. He was orange with a very special spirit. Ultimately became mine. He grew big and squishy. His name was Morris, like the icon. I'd sit and swing with him on my lap. We truly liked each other. I confided in him when I had a really hard day at school, which was often, and never fit in with the kids who were all white and most who lived in the States and neighborhood. As a child, other girlfriend had a tired help, and they didn't let me know it. I brought my troubles to Morris. Even if I had any friends, I wouldn't have wanted them to see if I lived near a trash dump. Once I was really upset about having a pretty big argument with my mother. I ran out of the house, grabbed my can, and headed for my place. While swinging over the hill of garbage with Morris in my lap, the smell of rotting food wafting over my face, I promised him I would never forget what it felt like to be a child. A moment I created years later in the vision of love Vigio. Sands of garbage. I wanted to be sentimental, not bleak. I really liked Henry. He was an Aries just like me. We would dance, and he would pick me up and twirl me around. He provided me a glimpse of what the life of a carefree little girl could do. Henry was kind, and he paid for my second year of performing arts summer camp. I remember his mother, who used to work for Estee Lauder, was a sexual cook. One day, she laid out a divine soul food spread, ending with German chocolate cake, which I never had before. It was delicious, warm, gooey, homely piece of happiness. But all that love came darkness. Henry was a black Vietnam veteran and was severely damaged by the consequences of both those identities. I suspect he suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Maybe with me with that girl Devorah Bleak, my enemy, I think. Of course, we may know that. Back to the book. And even as a kid, I was aware of his occasional psychedelic drug use. I knew the fallout from his experience of war and racism was the root of cause of why he and my mother broke up. Once near the end of my third grade school year, I got home. My mother was unarmed. She announced, "We can't stay anywhere readily now." She had our things packed and in our car. Henry was sitting in a chair in the middle of the kitchen. The lights were off, and I could see a strange silhouette Afro was holding a long double-barreled shotgun in one of his hands. Sitting down at the white window before he said very calmly, "You're not leaving me. I'm not going to let you guys leave." He narrowed his head or voice, and seemed to be in a kind of transplant state. "I'm not going to let you guys go," he said. "I'm going to chop you up and put you in the refrigerator and make you guys stay here." After he said that, I rushed into the car. My mother started the engine. "Morris!" I screamed. I had to get Morris. He's still there. There. Panic, I jumped out of the car. I was trying to get my cat. That cat represented too much for me. He was uncontrollable to me. Remember I said when you enter a house occupied by an armed man who just ran to chop us up? Henry never did anything for me. Perhaps she believed he wouldn't now. But still. I had to pass the kitchen where Henry and the shotgun to search for the other room for Morris. When I finally found him, I scooped him up in my arms, ran out of the house, and jumped into the car. I sped out. My heart was going a mile a minute. "Hallelujah, I got Morris!" I triumphantly exclaimed. I never knew what happened between her and Henry, and never saw him after that day. I heard that many years later, when he was riding down the road in the same vintage red pickup that Vision 11 Brian Carey came busting through his old radio. I was told that he rolled down the window and yelled into the fresh air, "She made it! She made it!" I really hope Henry made it too. My mother did occasionally try to give us moments. She would save a little money so we can do things like go to dinner in New York City. And it was at one of these excursions I developed a taste for the finer things. I had a distant memory of one night when we were running back from the city. I was looking at the black window at the New York City skyline. I said to myself, "This is where I'm going to live when I grow up. I want to have this view." I knew we lived in, I always knew we lived in cheap places among other people's nice houses in the suburbs. I never dreamed I'd get married and live in a big white Victorian house or even a cozy little home like my uncle's. But I did envision something grand. Mario made this, by the way, or gave this to me, this next movie, but I didn't watch it yet. I want to watch it one day. Or Daniel, or both. One of us. Well, now back to the book. I remember watching Mommy Dearest and seeing Joan Crawford's pristine manner. That's what I want, I thought. I even believed I could surpass its splendor. Even then, I saw myself living in a mansion or more because I knew I realized my dreams. And when I saw the New York skyline looking like a giant silver crystal encrusted with multicolored jewels, I envisioned I would somewhere where I can see that. And I do. I see it clearly. I see the entire city from the rooftop of my downtown Manhattan penthouse. As a result of a lot of hard labor, I went from swinging over garbage to sitting in a mansion in the sky. So yes, my mother exposing me to beauty and culture gave me encouragement and lifelong lessons I contribute both to my art and to what is good for me. My mother also created persistent turmoil, which caused trauma and deep sadness. It had taken me a lifetime to find courage to confront the startled of my mother. The beauty and the beast that coexist in one person. Discovered there's beauty in all of us, but who loved you and how they loved you will determine how long it takes to realize it. Looking back now, I can see in my early years there was significant neglect. For once, there were the people my mother let me be around, particularly my violent brother, my troubled sister, and their sketchy cohorts, and it often looked a mess. Though I believe it was likely a result of my mother being oblivious, in the name of being bohemian, rather malicious. However, I noticed a shift in our relationship when I was about 14 years old. One night as we were riding in a Dodge Dent, as she called it, Somebody's Watching Me by Rockwell came on the radio. It was a huge international hit on Motown Records at that time. I loved it largely because Michael Jackson sang the hook. We were driving and bopping along the song when my mother broke into Michael's signature part of the chorus. I always feel I can sing it. You know, it's not warm. I always feel like somebody's watching me. I think it's the part. I always feel like somebody's watching me. It's not warmed up yet. I see an opera like her. I always feel like somebody's watching me. Here's more. He's saying elaborate opera style. I turn my face to the window. Time I giggle. I mean, it's very 80s R&B record. It's very 80s R&B record. The hook, Son, and Michael Jackson, impeccably smooth signature style. So to hear it, the way Beverly Sills, a popular Brooklyn-born operatic soprano from the 1950s to the 70s, was hilarious, very hilarious to my teenage singer's ears. And she was on the Muppet Show. I don't think it's a real name, Beverly Sills. Oh, but Mother was not amused. She whipped the volume knob down and glared at me, her brownish-green eyes narrowing and hardening to stone. "What's so funny?" she spat. Her seriousness quickly swallowed up the silence of the moment. I started, well, that's just how it goes. She stared at me till every bit of lightness faded. Almost crying, she said, "You shall only hope that one day you can have the singer I am." My heart dropped. Still to this day, when she still haunts, it hurts me. Still to this day, when she said, haunts, it hurts me. It's like me, I want to be Mariah Carey, Reba, and Jody Benson. So badly. I'm trying for the past 13 to 14 years, I guess. Back to the book. I don't know if she meant to cut me down to size, or it was just her bruised ego talking. All I know is that those words that shot out of her mouth pierced my chest and were buried in my heart. Those words were there in my heart in 1999 when I acknowledged and respected from my voice and my compositions by two of the greatest opera talents of all time. And I think Aaron Caruso, my vocal coach, mentioned him, and I think my grandfather, Leon Titcher, may rest in peace, mentioned him too, and maybe has video and or DVDs of him. I think it's the special Mariah Carey talks about that my grandfather, I bet, had. I think here it is. I was invited to join Luciano Pavarotti and Friends, a prestigious annual fundraising concert, I don't know if we have any more, for children in war-torn countries, hosted by a great tenor, the maestro, in his hometown of Modena, Italy. The concert was directed for TV by Spike Lee. It's an ancient town known for producing fancy sports cars like Ferraris and Lamborghinis, as well as balsamic vinegar. And I'm sure whatever indulgence the maestro desired weren't important. I brought my mother and my wonderful little nephew Mike with me. I was proud and happy to be able to treat her to a glamorous trip and to introduce her to one of her idols. In a strapless pale pink silk taffeta sheath gown, my mother watched me share a great outdoor stage in front of 50,000 people with one of the greatest and most famous opera singers of all time. Not only did we sing together, he sang my son Pavarotti sang an Italian version of Hero with me for the whole world to see, for my mother to see. Then in May 2005, I met the phenomenal soprano Leontine Price, the first black woman to be a prima donna at the Metropolitan Opera and the first world classical singer. When she was being honored at Oprah's, I want to be an opera singer or close to that one day, like Sesame Street. But back to the book. It's on our library. Now back to the book. Where she's honored at Oprah's illustrious Legends Ball, which celebrated 25 African American women, art, entertainment, civil rights. The historic weekend began Fridays with a private luncheon at her Montesino house where the legends were greeted by the youngins, including Alicia Keys, Angela Bassett, Halle Berry, Mary J. Blige, Naomi Campbell, Missy Elliott, Tyra Banks, Iman, Janet Jackson, Felicia Rashad, Debbie Allen, myself, and many more. And throughout the extraordinary weekend, we youngins paid homage to the legends for their great contributions. My mother would often boast, "Oh yes, Leontine and I had the same vocal coach." And here I was hanging out with her, at Oprah Winfrey's house no less. Madame Price remembered my mother, and she also validated my talent. On the day after Christmas that year, on the most elegant, thick, egg-shelled Clara Station received a letter from her. In the difficult, demanding business of performing arts, you are the crown jewel of success. To acknowledge your level of success as a multi-dimensional artist is an outstanding measure for your artistic talent. It went on to say, "It was a pleasure to visit with you during the Legends weekend, and to tell you in person how much I admire you in your artistry. Your creativity and performances are superb. You present your compositions with a depth of feeling I was really ever seen or heard. It is a joy to watch you turn all your obstacles you face into stepping stones to success. Your devotion to your art and career are praiseworthy. That brings you a standing ovation and a resounding brava, brava, brava." Dead. Bye for now.